All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's rock and roll. Welcome back to the Gym Life Podcast. Fit, jacked, and stacked. One show to rule them all. Not really. One show to join them all. That's what I love about podcasting. I think we can all appreciate it, kind of like Netflix or some of these apps that we got. We have about 4 or 5, maybe 6 shows if we ever get to watching them. They're the ones we generally go to. Gym Life, we just want to be a part of that podcast list for you guys out there. Because listen, there's about 6 or 7 that I listen to pretty frequently. Some would call them my competition. They're not. Well, they're not because we all maybe share the same audience. We all have a lot of different topics of discussion and the ways we handle our shows and stuff. But as you guys know, I'm a big fan of the World's Strongest Opinion and Strong Personalities. My good friend Darren Zola used to do one more Strongcast with Godzilla. And Darren, I hope you come back to doing that. You always had some real good guests on. I loved hearing from. But in any case, yeah, we're all a part of this community. So it's really fun to sort of try to be more involved on this side of things a little bit to kind of pave our own way as to how we want to present the world of the gym life, that being our health and wellness, fitness, competitive, athletic, get ready for the beach, get those bar biceps going and all that good stuff here on the show. And we're going to kind of find our own path. And thanks to you guys, man, it really is shaping up because I have gotten so much great feedback over the last week or two, certainly since the last show. As every show, it gets progressively better and better and better. The interaction I get with all you guys out there listening, the show's growing every week too, which is fantastic. I mean, geez, oh Pete's just continues to blow my mind for sure. But certainly, we want to be on that list of podcasts. And if we get on that list of podcasts with you guys, then I know you're going to share it with other people and within our community. Maybe that, we're having, this is a small bubble, right? It's hard to touch a lot of people out there, even in the fitness community with all the social media we got, because ultimately there's so much of it, things get missed a lot. So even when I post constantly, about trying to come over, check out the show, check out the athletes that we're interviewing, that kind of thing, it could get overlooked depending on what time of day you're on, scrolling around, that kind of stuff. So without you guys' help, it won't get out there the way I would like it to. So I implore you, if you like the show, please share it. So there you go, a little housekeeping for you, built right in. So it's been a week. Boy, it seems like a lot happens in a week around here. I know I was pretty excited about leading into the weekend, as you guys know. Maybe we'll start there because I was pushing not only on this show, but one we had done prior, which is like the top 10 strongman events in the United States, at least the ones that I thought subjectively were going to be some of the ones to look out for. And one of them, of course, unbiasedly, I say, because it was unbiased, was George Bullard's War of the North. Wearing the shirt right now. Cool shirts, by the way. Got a lot of swag while I was there. The War of the North. I led up to that show. Guns a-blazing, guys. You know that. Everything I had when it came to trying to push George's show on every single one of you out there. I even decided to free live stream that show at the last minute, which I don't know was such a good idea. Listen, I was ready to live stream that show because I wanted everybody just to see what we were all going to experience up there. This private crowd, I guess you can say, 60 competitors and 60 spectators. No more, just 120 people total, besides the helpers in there, the volunteers, and a few of the other people that were assisting the facility. It was a small crowd in a very intimate venue with a very small group of athletes, all things considering, compared to most shows. So how else could we get it to you? Well, of course, I was going to not live stream it. So I decided, okay, let's just live stream it. Everybody's got to see this show out there. Probably not the best move for sure. And for a couple of reasons. We'll get onto that in a minute. But ultimately, we did. And it didn't go as well as we'd planned. And kind of, well, I shouldn't say that. It probably went as well as I had planned. The first couple events, we got a really good look at. We got a really good look on that live stream of what George did there inside that CrossFit box, what he had done from a pageantry or a kind of a stage level to it all, with all the different effects that he lent to it, with the lighting, the sound, the smoke, and the just sort of the set that he'd built there and how he was going to present it to his audience. So we got a really good look at that in the live stream, which is the very most important thing that I wanted to do for all you guys out there, is to give you that look. Then, of course, as the night kind of moved forward, we didn't get quite the look we wanted to at certain events because, George and I had little discussion about this. It was kind of last minute again. And with 2 stationary cameras, it was very difficult to kind of get into that arena like we were hoping we could, depending on how those events were set up. So during that deadlift, we just lost it. We honestly lost it. We couldn't find a good angle from a camera. You were just staring at a bunch of people standing around. Then sort of throughout the show, it kind of got a little chaotic in the arena because now more and more competitors, instead of waiting, to come out to start, I guess, to compete in their lane, they were kind of, instead of in the back waiting to be called out, they were kind of all standing around outside in the arena, which of course was cool. It lent to the whole fact of the show. Certainly from a camaraderie standpoint, we can all appreciate that. Guys were lined along the dungeon wall, so to speak, which is super cool. And obviously everybody's waiting their turn to compete. And it was a very high energy kind of vibe in there. And, one that we certainly wouldn't want to go away. So next time, I think George is probably already thinking about, okay, how do I do this? So I get in a little bit bigger facility to kind of loosen things up a little bit in respect to where these guys can come out at and where they can kind of hang out at and where spectators, because you don't want to be in the back and miss any of the action. Even as an athlete, you need to be somewhere where you can kind of stand around and watch what's going on. So I guess in my own defense with the live stream, certainly no surprise. Like I said, it was going to be tough to do. And my biggest goal was to give you at least a decent look at what we had going on up there. And I think it did that. I really do. I think it did that. Then on top of that, Duante, my partner, I talk about him enough here. He was doing a great job kind of staying out there in the mix of all that, doing separate recordings so he can put reels together and different images together that all the way up until today, even we saw him on Facebook or on Instagram. So we did get a lot of different looks, but that live look, maybe just for about maybe an event and a half of it, it got a little messy and it was really hard to kind of pick up on. Plus it was really dark in there too. So it was kind of hard to, anyhow, you guys know what I'm trying to say. I didn't have a competitor list in order, and that was, we needed somebody for that. Maybe a runner to give us more insight on who was being called up. It was very loud in there. So from that perspective, the live stream perspective, that is, it was a shot in the dark, no pun intended, but it still turned out well enough. I think you guys caught the vibe, got the energy, and that's what's important. Now, as far as the event goes, it was a home run. It was an absolute home run. It was an amazing event. And the way George staged this show was even a surprise to me. When we were inside the arena setting up, of course, I got kind of a sneak peek, right? I was setting up the live stream. He had a curtain essentially around the entire thing. So as you had 60 athletes and 60 spectators, none of which have even seen the inside of this arena yet. And you'll catch it on the first part of the live stream where the volunteers rip down the curtain when George makes the announcement, "Let the war begin." And all these spectators are lined up right there, and they all get a first shot experience at this entire venue light up with the smoke and lights and the music, dramatic music in the background as all the athletes walk out into the arena, kind of like gladiators getting ready to battle. So right from the very start of this show, it was exactly what we had signed up for. It was nothing short of spectacular. And it carried on from there. Listen, it was a short lanes, so very, very heavy weights. So everybody knew what they were getting into. And ultimately, it was a mixed bag across the board. You had some really, good events for some and some not so for others. And, of course, you had some people that shined, and just like any other strongman event. So as far as the competitors go in the competitor field, it was everything we expected it would be. Very, very high energy, a lot of effort, and well fought. And then, of course, everything else on top of that. From the throne, and we had a marriage proposal go on. Congratulations, you guys. We also had what else did we have in there? We had free beer, or not free. It was like a donation thing with a local IPA, some mixed drinks. A local barbecue place was in there. I mean, it was really, really done nicely, guys, and it was just an awesome event to be a part of. It ended up running a little bit longer, I think, than a lot of us had anticipated it would. I was calling out from the beginning that George is generally one that could put on a show and get it over with in about 3 hours. But to George's defense, it was a difficult venue to calculate. So some things were getting held up, and maybe different thought process maybe on the 2 lanes with the types of events that were going on, because it took a lot to change the weights out. Because you got to remember, we had like 8 weight classes in 2 lanes. So getting the competitors through wasn't the difficult part. It was the setup between classes that was bogging things down a bit. So instead of taking any breaks towards the end, we went straight from the yoke to the pull with no delay. And that, of course, helps speed things up because ultimately what promoters like to do, and no fault to them at all, generally like to take a 10 or 15-minute break in between events. This one, you could do done without that for sure. So I know George has already made a list of things that he would do to change some of the logistics of this show to make it run a little bit more efficiently. But outside of that, I mean, I think we were still all drinking a beer at 11 o'clock. So, yeah, maybe a little longer than you wanted to, but I don't think any of the competitors cared. I could tell you none of the spectators did because the kind of show it was where it always kept your attention and it was lending that energy to it throughout those 5 hours. That's what kind of kept this thing in check, or, kept the whole idea that it ran longer in check. Because, at some shows when you get there, if there's a lot of downtime, like a roller coaster in between events, it's kind of like you're up 1 minute, down the next, up 1 minute, down the next. We didn't get that there. It was through the entire show. It was between the music, the drinks, the socializing in the crowd and the competitors and everything else. It tied it together nice. So where I think everybody just had an awesome Saturday night out, with their husband, wife, whoever, girlfriend, friend, lifting partner, whoever got a chance to spectate that event had a very cool ticket for a Saturday night. And I think we would all agree we wouldn't have traded that Saturday night in for anything. And we wish we can find more Saturday nights like that within the strongman community. So promoters, get your thinking caps on. That could be one way to kind of explore a new sort of strongman show, is what George did up there in Traverse City last Saturday. Now, as far as the mentions go, let me give a quick drink of my C4 as I'm breaking up here again, guys. I'm losing it, my voice. Yeah, it's good. Mentions. Well, listen, these are all subjective, of course, because you can mention everybody in there, but I'll start with Emily Flowers. Awesome competitor. First time I got a chance to meet her. She won her weight class, of course, which I think middleweights or heavyweights. I can't remember now. I'm coming to cough. She's amazing. Listen, it was just a pleasure meeting her. I mean, she's a great competitor, of course. 82s, that's what she's in, the 82 class. Great competitor. Finally, nice to meet her. She's very outspoken, as I've always found in all the stuff that I've done on Instagram and Facebook, or at least Instagram. She'll comment on it. If I get somebody's name wrong, she's letting me know. She got information to share, she's sharing it. So she's one of those special, I guess, fans of the show that I was just really looking forward to meeting, and I got a chance to meet her. Of course, she kicked ass. She's heading down to Clash on the Coast, actually, at the end of March, and she's going to be on ESPN competing for the Clash of the 82s down there. So congratulations to her. That's one of our girls, or I should say ours. I think she's from Ohio, but ultimately in the Great Lakes region that's going to compete at a big show, and that's Clash on the Coast here at the end of the month. Who else? Jake Harbin, of course, won the heavyweight class in the men's division. And I actually got a question. It said, would you consider Jake Harmon a dynasty, something like that? I'm paraphrasing. A dynasty in strongman and winning every show in the Northern Great Lakes. At this point, I think you might have to. Listen, nobody's beat this guy in any show up there. I think, well, at least I know 5-6 shows now. So yeah, I guess he does have a dynasty. It should encourage everybody from the state of Michigan to chase this guy down and beat him. Not an easy victory by any stretch. I don't know if you guys saw the video on it or not, but he ran that 800-pound yoke 30 feet in 5 seconds. He flew with it. So this guy's getting bigger and better is what I'm getting at. That was a big moment for him. He also pulled 805-pound deadlift. No surprise. Listen, if you're an open competitor in strongman and you're on the national level, you're probably pulling 800 pounds. Jake would tell you that too. But that's what he didn't really even need all that to win it, but that's what he pulled. Another guy that I want to point out is Matt Holland. He was a 40-year-old guy competing in the Masters class. A lot of you guys know Matt Holland out there. Watch out for Matt Holland. I'm going to tell you right now, as a 40-year-old in the Masters class, and no knock on that, you guys know I'm a master, he kicks ass. This guy really doesn't have a weakness. He's just good at everything. I mean, he'd probably tell you there's things he needs to work on, but as a Masters competitor, I'm going to predict that he's going to do very well at OSG this year. I'm going to put him in the top 5 right now, and I know that's a bold statement. But listen, Matt Holland's that guy, and if Matt goes to OSG this year, I don't think I'm going to be too far off. If he competes like he did at War of the North, and he just keeps getting better, like I know he's going to get better and prepare for OSG this year, which I think, Matt, you're going to OSG. I think you are. I think I heard somebody tell me that when I was talking about you at the show. And of course, one of my personal favorites, a guy that I couldn't wait to meet. You guys know I follow all you on Instagram, or most of you. And I spend a lot of my days, unfortunately, glued to my phone to just get content for this show and the other shows that I do and talk to people and DM them and that kind of thing. And one guy's videos that have always come up in my feed is Scott Dobbs. And for those of you know Scott Dobbs out there, he's as high energy guy as you think he would be if you met him in person. He's not fucking around. He moves great, man. By the way, Scott, you move really good for an old dude. I'm going to tell you right now. It got me looking at my shit, my farmer's event. Anyhow, I'm going, I need some work, man. I am not moving nearly as quick as you. But certainly he's a tenacious competitor and a guy that's got a lot of high energy. And I knew he'd be that way when I met him. And he was a big help to me at the event, of course. And let me borrow his grip shirt, which come to find out that was my failing event. And I'll explain that to you guys in a minute. So it was fun to meet Scott for sure. Of course, can't go without mentioning probably Justin Blake. I mean, he's another guy on my list that I have to mention. I came up with Justin Blake 20 some years ago in strongman. He's about 10 years younger than me, or he's, well, I don't know. He's a little bit younger than me anyhow. I think Justin's 41 or 42 years old. And he is as good now as he ever has been. And he pulled 700. By the way, Justin, you got that. I saw the video. I don't know if they gave you the lockout, but you should have got it. You locked it out instantaneously. I'll tell you that. Before the weight dropped. And maybe they didn't. Well, of course, this isn't powerlifting, so they should have gave it to you. But in any case, Justin Blake, a previous America's Strongest Man winner of the light heavyweight class, by the way. And this was a light heavyweight class before it was light heavyweight 80s, 90s, 105ers, guys. Justin won 2 back-to-back, I think it was, America's Strongest Man in the 105 class. 231 and under. And he may have weighed 200 pounds like he did at this show. He's always been a super lean guy. He doesn't carry a lot of body weight, but pound for pound in the history of our sport, Justin Blake's probably one of the strongest guys to ever pick up a stone or press an axle above his head. I'll tell you right now. And he's that damn good. And running into him occasionally at one of these shows, he always supports the Great Lakes. I don't think he does anything else. He just goes to these local shows now. He's amazing. He competed in the middleweight class, of course, was 105 class, as we know it. And he took second as a 42-year-old against a stacked class of about 15 or 20 guys. It was amazing to see him again. Very soft-spoken guy, a little more introverted. You get a little conversation out of Justin, but you get a lot of performance out of him. And he was just amazing to watch. Got a 700-pound deadlift at 200 pounds at 42 years old. By the way, pulled it reverse grip, no straps, no suit, as raw as you can get. I think he wore a belt. Maybe he even didn't. And he got 705 pounds, maybe unofficially. But like I said, Justin, I think you got it. So, but anyhow, I'm obviously congrats to everybody else out there too, like Pankow and Danko and all you guys that did real well in your classes. And if I missed anybody, it's not intentional, of course. These are just some people that come to mind off the top of my head, and it just made the show even that much better when you run into a lot of these familiar faces from these shows, like we all do when we compete at a lot of our local events. There's something about those local events that just keep the fire burning. They certainly make it so where you appreciate the camaraderie of this sport and want to be able to participate in it for as long as you possibly can, which is going to be my motto, by the way, because I got injured. Yeah, my comeback cut a little short, but let me stop right there and not cry in my beer here. I am not discouraged in the least bit. I'm going to be out for 16 weeks working lower body only. I tore my triceps tendon completely off. It was the most excruciating, painful fucking thing I think I've ever dealt with for the first 2 hours. It was terrible. I went into my second keg press. I was raw. Listen, excuse me. I can go back and look at 5 or 6 different things I could have did differently to maybe prevent this from happening. And there's a part of me that thinks I probably could have prevented it. I know it's like an easy thing to say, but no, guys, I was a bonehead, a complete bonehead. I took it for granted. I took it for granted that these kegs were going to be light. For me, they were. I'm a good presser. I wasn't worried about them. I had little warm up, if any, going into this, which is stupid because I'm running back and forth to that live stream, which I told you guys at the beginning. I got a bad feeling about this. This is probably something I shouldn't be doing. I shouldn't be attempting to multitask like this at a show. Certainly the first show that I come back to. outside of some charity stuff and Static Monsters, that kind of thing. So yeah, I blast the first keg up, no problem. I go to lock out the second keg, which, by the way, I got to in a lockout position in about 9 seconds from the first keg. So I had 9 seconds in the first and second keg. It felt great, rolled it up, pressed it. As soon as I got the keg up with my top arm, the top arm shifted, as the video would show everybody, and it popped. And I dropped that keg as fast as lightning. My arm is black and blue from wrist, basically up to the end of the bicep. And I tore it good. I knew I did. The couple PTs there looked at it and said, yeah, it's torn for sure. The orthopedic confirmed that yesterday, that it's going to be a tricep tendon repair, complete tendon repair. And I'm okay with it. Listen, I'm fine. Did it to myself. I know it. Boneheaded move. As much as I preach about all this stuff we should and shouldn't do on this fucking show, I found myself in a position again in life where I'm the bonehead. Well, listen, I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm going to be better. I'm going to come back and I'm going to be stronger. And in a way, as demented as this is, I think this is a blessing, because I was getting so strong in my upper body and I was doing well in recovery of my hip, but I still felt like I had a lot of work to do on my lower capacity, the lower extremity, certainly in my posterior chain, because I wanted to be as good of a deadlifter as I used to be. And now I guess I got plenty of time to do this deadlifting and posterior chain work, lower body. And not only that, after seeing Scott Dobbs run around like he was 20 years old in the master's class, I'm going to be working on speed and athleticism to go along with this newfound strength that I'm going to have in my lower body. And Duante is going to help me get there. He's a great coach and trainer. But yeah, I've got 16 weeks to do all that. So I'm going to have a lot of fun. I've got it all mapped out right now. I'm going to be doing a ton of lower body work, a ton of core work, a ton of athletic kind of programming to get myself in better condition, better shape. I'm going to open the gate of my hips up a little bit, start to run and sprint a little bit more. So there's a plan here that's taking place that probably wouldn't have otherwise taken place had I not get injured. And I would have probably found myself either really struggling to compete on certain events and or quite possibly injuring my lower body somehow, because I just wasn't doing the right things to get it built up the way it should be to compete at the high level that I want to compete at. So we'll leave it there. I'm still motivated. I'm ready to rock and roll. I was in the gym today and did legs already. My surgery is scheduled for March 10th. That's in and out, of course, and I'll be wearing a brace. Splint for 2 weeks, brace for a few weeks, and I'll get starting to rehab at about 6-8 weeks after surgery. So yeah, man, I got a lot of downtime on my upper body. I feel like my arms are already shrinking. Jeez, oh Pete's. God, that's going to be the worst part about this. Leading in the summer, I'm going to have like tiny arms. Although I did hear that, or at least read, that it's always still good to work the other side. So I'll be like that guy in like Lady in the Water, and it's a real abstract movie by M. Night Shyamalan. I'm sure some of you guys are going, what the fuck are you talking about? There was a guy in there that had like one big arm because he just did curls with one arm. That's going to be me. And I hear that it's the best way to train when you're down a limb, to let your neural pathways, they still talk to one another from right side to left side, right? Or left to right, vice versa. So both legs, both arms, that kind of thing. They want to mirror each other. So I've heard that, and I'm going to get more in depth about this. I'd love to share it on the show too. So I'm going to do some research, that you still want to work the hell out of that other side, just to give yourself an opportunity for a quicker recovery when I open up the ability to train with my right arm. My left arm's been doing a ton of work. Those neurons, those neural pathways talk to one another. The body parts want to mimic one another, and it would help my right arm catch up to my left arm once I finally get there. So anyhow, I'm all about it, guys. I'm already on it, looking for all this great information. So that was the story of the War of the North. And that was a story, of course, that came with a sad ending. And that was my injury to my right triceps tendon. Oh, well, I guess moving on. Although I will say, I'm going to be competing, or I was going to be competing at the Windy City Strongest Man with Mike Lohman and the Warpath Strength Crew. Obviously not going to do that anymore, but I am still going to be there. I wanted to make it last year, got sick, couldn't. I told Mike I'm going to be there for sure. Was going to compete, not going to compete now, of course. But I am going to be there to do some fun stuff, try to live stream that event as well, which I promise you will have greater success at the Windy City than I did up north with War of the North. So in any case, see you soon, Mike. We'll just be hanging out. You'll be in your wheelchair because, you know, Mike Lohman's getting a hip replacement done. Yeah, he is. Congrats. I congratulated him. He's going to feel like $1 million. He's going to get that hip fixed, and he's going to say, okay, I'm making my comeback. I could already hear it because that's how good I felt when my hip finally got to the point where I had felt that good in it so many years. Like I never believed it could even happen. It did. Mike, you're going to feel the same way. You're going to feel great, man. So you'll be in your wheelchair. I'll be in my splint. Us crippled guys will hang out together. We'll have a great time in the Windy City War of the North, or Windy City Strongest Man, and a couple nights in Chicago. So yeah, looking forward to that. That'll be on April 1st. All right, where are we at? Oh, this is real kind of funny, guys. You guys remember last week when I was talking about these scientists, or I was making fun of kind of science and the idea that they're lending just so much great counsel to the fitness and wellness community. I forgot to mention this, and this might be one of the most absurd ones that I've heard up to this point. There was a new doctor that was she was brought in to be a part of the Biden's Dietary Guidelines Advisory Council, and her big thing is, by the way, she only believes that obesity is genetic. So welcome back trans fats. Welcome back everything we thought we couldn't eat, because this girl being on the Biden Dietary Council or Advisory Committee is going to now let everybody know in the world that, certainly in the United States, that it's okay to eat shit food because it has nothing to do with you getting fat. So, yeah, there's one for you. Crazy. It still ceases to amaze me. Just when you think you've heard it all and you hear something like that, you're like, can it get any worse? I think it just did. I really think it just did. It got worse because now all the people out there that don't get the information like we get it and dissect it and throw it out the window like all of us in the gym life in our community does. Now all these normal people out there that believe every fucking thing they hear is going to hear this crazy lady start spouting off this nonsense, and they're just going to continue to pound down the Twinkies and the fucking, the Jack's pizzas and the whatever, the Lay's potato chips, and think it's going to be all right. Sad part about that is I've got a lot of friends that are obese and overweight, and now when they hear this, they're going to go, listen, man, it's genetic. Sorry. I told you it was genetic. We have so many friends. I had so many people, I'm sure, in all of our lives that are going to use this new knowledge and just like can't wait to tell you that they told you all along that it has nothing to do with the shit they eat and how lazy they are. It has everything to do with their genetics. Of course, you guys know I'm aware that there are probably genetic markers that don't help these people out, but don't use that as a fucking excuse. Or please, please don't buy into this lady's bullshit. Yeah. News. Lots of good news out there. Oh, Canadian powerlifting. Not that we care about Canadian powerlifting because we don't. I mean, I guess I got some Canadian fans out there. Fans, I say. They're not fans of me. Fans of the show. But nobody's a fan of that country, I don't think. The politics of that country is just bizarre to me. And now that you can self-identify in powerlifting there, which I think is weird. Listen, I'm not going to get into all the politics and what side of the fence and all that stuff anybody is on their position with transgender and all that stuff. I like the way the USAPL and some other organizations are doing it because, of course, they're providing a category for this type of competing. If you're a transgendered, how does it work? If you're a transgendered woman, you can compete in transgender woman category, or vice versa, man, or whatever you want to do. Coughing again. Sorry, guys. But the Canadians just say, fuck it. We'll just go let you self-identify and you compete wherever you want. And we don't have to make up this new, this new category. So apparently that's something going on over there. I just caught that again, probably a day or two ago. And I was just kind of baffled by it because you thought sort of the right thing that was being done with a lot of sort of this identifying stuff, whether you believe it or don't. Again, I don't want to get into it. I really don't. And I'm treading lightly right now, as you guys can tell. But in any case, you would think that the problem is solved, right? It makes complete sense. We'll just start an own category over here. If that's how you identify, then that's your category. Let's move on. Apparently, that's not good enough for the Canadians. So they're doing something a little different. Not to knock all my Canadian friends, but God, your politics, it might be the worst I've ever seen. And we're living in it. So I don't know how worse it can get than right now around here. But certainly you guys are killing it in Canada. So congratulations on that. Speaking of powerlifting, I will be going. I'm going to be APF state championships here in Michigan. I'm going to be commentating that for a couple days. That was a cool opportunity. Guys from Rochester Performance Gym gave me that opportunity. They're going to have me commentate the live stream. Not doing the live stream. They outsource that to another company. They just need a commentator. So I'm going to go down there and commentate APF, which I'm excited to do. It's a different kind of lifting, as you guys know, geared lifting, and that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And that's a different kind of energy, as I've witnessed it before there at RPG. These guys are intense, and these ladies are intense, and they bring a whole different animal to powerlifting. And I'm excited to be a part of that, and that contrast between USAPL lifting and then, of course, APF lifting. We all fall into our categories, of course. So that's going to be a whole different look at a whole nother organization to kind of have an intimate, sit down with it over a couple days and call out the shots as I see it through the commentary of this live stream. So for those of you interested, I'll post a lot of that stuff on my Instagram so you'll know what's going on there. Ghost Clash 2, I said it last week. If I didn't, or maybe it was the weekend, I said, hey, don't forget to watch it. And I can't remember now. I'm trying to get caught up in my head with my timelines, but I've been seeing a lot of stuff posted about that. My friend Sam Matea had a great time down there. He did a great follow-up post. Did well, I guess. I didn't really look at a lot of the standings. Listen, all these guys are world guys, and generally you gravitate towards the one or two that have those blowout kind of days. But Sam had just said it was just an event of a lifetime, and had a lot of great things to say about it. And I kind of had a feeling it was going to be one of those type of shows down there. In past, of course, it did really well with all these lifters. Had a great time, and now, of course, everybody's gearing up for that Pioneer Classic, which has got $111,000 in prize money already, which is crazy, by the way. Powerlifting, man, you guys are killing it with your prize money. Not doing too shabby at all, I'll tell you. Love to see that. It helps to have these big powerlifting companies that have been built into our culture for so long being a part of it. Pioneer, of course, is a big, they're the lead sponsor of that show. But along with all the other, companies that are associated with powerlifting, they're all very good in staying in and supporting these different meets at, these bigger shows that we see around the world, or particularly here in the United States. One that Strongman's getting better and better with, we've got Cerberus is a big thing with a lot of what we do over here in the Strongman community and other companies as well. And as we grow our sport, those prize pools are going to grow as well. So I just love watching this powerlifting evolve in the United States, because I think it's just a real cool barometer to where we may see the strongman sport, or the sport of strongman, grow over the next few years as well. Same kind of people. Listen, powerlift's a little fucked up in the head too, I'll tell you. Every one of them are. And certainly those geared lifters. I've told you guys before, crazy individuals. And you can say the same thing about just about every guy I know in strongman, and every woman for that matter. They're all there for their own reason. And a lot of it's self-help, I'm going to tell you right now, including myself. So listen, very, very similar, and kissing cousins, I guess you can say, of the lifting community, powerlifting and strongman for sure. John Hack, 2,200 pounds, by the way. I bring John up because, as you know, he's going to the U90 Classic, and he's going to compete at Luke Davies' event over in England in July that I'm going to go over there and be a part of. Love John Hack. Always followed him. Never had an opportunity to talk with him. I will soon, though. I'm going to reach out to him, get an interview from him. But he is a guy that just continues to defy all logic when it comes to the amount of weight that he's lifting at 198 pounds. I think he was 204 pounds, 200-pound body weight, just over 200 at the show down there. Did 2,226 pound total, which is fucking nuts. He right around a 900-pound deadlift. Anyhow, he's barely in the 231 class, or the 105 class. Barely in the 105 class. He's essentially a 90-kilo guy, which, of course, that's where he's competing out in England. So to take nothing away from that lift, I think if he got 6 pounds off him, he could replicate that if there was a max competition and break the record currently that we see in strongman for strongman deadlift. So anyhow, I love to make these comparisons, and we're finally going to get a chance to see guys like John Hack and, of course, Tamara Walcott compete in crossover sports, to compete in the strongman community, as I would really like to see more and more strongmen crossover to compete in powerlifting. One, of course, that I always followed was Nick Best, and then also congratulations to Nick Best. That was a shot out of the dark there. I just forgot about this, but Nick had a kidney removed, and I spoke to him at the at the Olympia. He told me a bit about his health condition out there. At that time, they didn't know what they were going to do with it. Sounds like they removed it. He had some tumors on it. He's in really good condition now, doing very, very well. No doubt Nick will be back into training. I don't know what his future thoughts are as far as competing in strongman are right now. But as you know, if any you know Nick out there, that has not left his mind. I assure you of that. I think he just wants to make sure his health is exactly where it needs to be able to push the weight and training like he had been previously. And I can guarantee you, we'll see him somewhere, whether it's strongman or powerlifting or both again. Not sure, but it's going to be one or the other. I guarantee it, because you're not taking the fight out of that dog. There's no way. Nick's the kind of guy that's going to do this until he's 80 years old, until his body basically tells him he can't do it anymore. He's not going to give it up. So anyhow, congrats, Nick. That was really good to hear. All right. So powerlifting. Oh, I'm going to be doing a show. You guys out there who are powerlifting fans all across the nation, as a matter of fact. As you guys know, there's a lot of big powerlifting events going on down at the Arnold that are going to be going on here at the Arnold Classic next weekend. The biggest ones are going to be those USAPL events. Some might argue those Arnold USAPL shows are the biggest shows for the USAPL in the nation right now, in the world for that matter, because as you know, they stepped away from the IPF, so they're no longer a part of the worlds. They've kind of created their own pro division now, which I don't know. It's a good thing. It hasn't really got off the ground. At least the hype of it hasn't yet, like they maybe anticipated it. Or they're just sort of waiting for other things to happen before they really start pushing it like I think they're going to push it. But in the meantime, that Arnold show down there, the pro shows they got, of course, they got the amateur show, they got a master's show. They're all the top level shows for the USAPL. And if there's any buzz in the USAPL community, it's going to be coming through those shows. And that's why this is going to be a show that I'm looking forward to doing. I've got Marcellus Williams coming on with me. And if you guys don't know who Marcellus is, well, not only is he a world-class powerlifter, but he's also coaching arguably 3 or 4 of the best guys on the planet right now. And he's going to share all that good stuff with us on a little roundtable that we're going to have prior to the Arnold. So we're going to do a show, I think, next week. I got some USAPL brains coming on with me, if you will, competitors and also coaches that are going to sit down with me and discuss kind of this Arnold event and dissect it a bit for you and get everybody out there excited for what we know is going to go on there and kind of the who's who of the USAPL lifting community and share all that with you. So that was really cool that I got in touch with Marcellus. His reputation precedes him, and he got right back with me and said, yeah, man, sounds like a lot of fun. Let's do it. So I think we're organizing that for Tuesday night, and we're going to do maybe we'll even do it live, YouTube live, but we're going to do a roundtable, and I'll look into maybe doing that and getting that out there for a lot of you guys. And of course, it'll be there recorded as well. So anyhow, something very cool to think about as the weekend comes up, as I'm going to prepare for that and get that out to you guys. So yeah, real cool stuff. Real cool stuff going on. We're also going to do a big Clash Prelude to Clash show. I'll probably get that running right after the Arnold. As you guys know, the Clash of the Coast is coming up. I talked about that at last week's show. That 105 is, of course, the staple, the mainstay of the world when it comes to competitions for the 105ers. Just like last year, as I mentioned earlier in the show, with Emily Flowers going out there for the 82 women's class. That's also going to be out there. And again, what makes this show so unique, outside of just being a super show and the who's who are going to be there of both these classes, it's going to be covered by ESPN as well. So a real high profile opportunity for the strongman community to gain some followers, some fans, and share it with other people and places in the sport itself, including maybe some new people that have never laid eyes on the sport before. As we know, that's a big component in trying to grow that sport. Clash is a big part of that now, and it's become an annual event that everybody looks forward to across the world. Again, not as big as an international contingency at this show as there was last year. But certainly I could still argue it's a better list of competitors, short of maybe 1 or 2 guys that I've ever seen before there in the last 3 years. So get ready for a big 105 show. The 82s are really interesting out there because there's not a lot of familiar names on that list. Obviously, Melissa Peacock is coming back to try to defend her title as she should. And of course, Isaac's coming back to defend his, as they should. They're both together. They're both going to be there. They were both won last year. Outside of that, though, the names elude me a little bit. Some are familiar. Emily was familiar. There's some others on there that I recognize. But what I really love about this is there's another 11 women that are going to compete in the show that, again, have that new generation, that those new faces, those new names that are going to start to be indoctrinated by some of these bigger shows that we're going to watch this year, that are going to provide now another layer to this already deep competitors pool that we have in the United States. That 82s, or the class show, of course, in general, there at the coast, that is just going to provide a platform for another great group of athletes to come up and to sort of stake their claim, or to push the champion to hopefully a podium finish or a title themselves, and be recognized amongst already the best group of ladies out there within the strongman community. That being the whole group at large, of course. Every woman's class is kicking ass right now. So I love that. But of course, on top of that, you have the 105 class. Again, a lot of familiar names, as we would guess. The best of the best are going to be there. And there are a lot of names that have been there only for the first time this year that we are going to start recognizing again. And they're going to become household names in themselves. And also an opportunity for one of these guys to push the podium. And again, we may be talking about returning champions that aren't Isaac Mays next year. However, I'm rooting Isaac on. Biasly, I am. I think it's great. And you guys know how I feel about my champions. I love champions, man. I love repeat champions. I get it. Everybody loves to be pushed, and I'm sure Isaac does too. But I'm going to get behind my favorites here. You know, I don't play it like that. I'm pretty biased with who I like and don't like. It means I just have my favorites when it comes to shows. Let me just say it that way. That sounded terrible the other way. I like everybody, but I do have my favorites. And of course, Isaac, getting to know him a little bit. I'm pushing him, and I'll be behind him for sure. But there's a lot of great competitors there on that list. Andrew Clayton's another guy that I would put up there. Of course, there's guys like Michael Connor that are going to push that podium. Guys like Tyler Young and Matt McKeegan are coming back, top 10 last year. I mean, it's really going to be interesting the way this plays out. So I'm excited as a fan. And if you guys know your history of that show, as you should with a lot of these shows by now, you should be getting pretty excited about watching this happen as well. When you got all the same players, many of them, I should say, participating in a high-level show like this, we've already got a lot of plot lines being built. And we're going to do a show next week and kind of elaborate on those plot lines for you. I'm bringing the band back together. Nick O'Hare, Luke Davies, CJ Pierce, and myself for my pro picks at Gym Life here, Full Sense Sports. And we're going to do some fun stuff for you leading up to that show in particular and the Arnold Classic, I think. So get ready for that. All right. Drink of water. Already a lot, huh, guys? 42 minutes in. Not too bad. If I'm keeping you even interested at this point. A lot of stuff I just need to say. And just to get it out there because it's worth talking about. I'm going to try to clear my throat here. My goodness. Okay. That's what I needed. Water and a quick cough. The drainage that never stops. All right. Where are we at? You know, I did a show last week when I did that show last week. If you guys remember, those of you who listened or maybe didn't get to that part of the show, and if you don't, go back and listen to it. God damn it. I did a show and we were talking about I clipped it, part of the show, I should say, and I clipped some of the stuff out of it and I put it on Instagram where I was talking about the cameras in the gym. And I was, pretty vocal about it, and they don't deserve to be there. Let's just take them out of the gym entirely. Probably more so because I was, I was a little fed up with it. Like we all get that way with that kind of shit. I get it. It's a part of our culture, and it's like it just isn't going to ever leave us now, unfortunately. However, I did get a lot of you guys to reach out to me that were, bringing up some pretty legitimate excuses as to why it would be okay to have a camera in the gym. And I can't argue it. A lot of them I responded back, yeah, I get that. I guess I can't argue that. So I made a kind of a short list of reasons you could bring your camera in the gym. So here's this short list, and I'll also have the other side of that list for you as well. Reasons you shouldn't bring your camera in the gym. They kind of go hand in hand, really. But let me start with the reasons you should or can or would be allowed to. Nobody give you shit for, and I won't get all pissed off at you if you brought your camera in the gym. Let me get a quick drink of C4, and we'll get on with the list. All right, item number 1. Your coach is requesting some footage of your routine. All right, let's be clear. Your coach is requesting some footage of your routine. That footage, of course, is like, hey, John, I want you to show me your 80% last set of your deadlift, your 3-rep deadlift max. Or, hey, John, I want you to send me your last set of log press, or your last set of bench press, or your last set of this or that. Okay, that's what I'm referring to. Your coach is requesting a specific item. Okay, that's number one. Number two, your coach or a coach, a personal trainer or coach, I guess, is recording a workout to share with their clients. Okay, listen, money's to be made. It's a business. We can argue where and how that should be done, but I can't argue that. The guy needs to record a few exercises to send them off to his clients to be sure they know what they need to do today. And a lot of good coaches are doing that. They're sending out their clips of their stuff so people are aware of not only what to do, but how to do it. I can respect that. Nothing wrong with that. The other one is PRs, personal records, personal best, PBs, PRs. If you have a personal record in a bench press, you're not a competitor, or if you are, it doesn't matter. It's your gym lift, right? Or a personal best at a log press, whatever, you name it, sort of. I'll get to that here in a minute. Yeah, that's probably worthy of a camera out of your pocket. Hey, man, can you film this real quick? And have somebody film that set of bench or that bench press. Sure, I agree 100%. Self-help. Some guy got a hold of me about this one. I don't disagree. He says, well, maybe I want to just, I want to film this just for the sake of watching my footwork, maybe in a yoke walk, or maybe some speed work if you're just doing some running drills and stuff. Yep, don't disagree at all. We can all use a little self-help. So if there's that one thing that we just want to make sure my footwork's right where it needs to be, or I've been thinking about that lately, I want to see where it's at so I can make it better. Absolutely 100% agree. Self-help. The other one might be an abstract lift. See, guys, I'm giving you a big, long list here, because when I'm going to tell you the things that shouldn't be on this fucking list, nobody's going to listen. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to say it because it needs to be said. So yeah, how about an abstract lift? Ben Paul, I put one on Instagram today. My friend, powerlifting coaching phenom, Ben Paul, he did a lift with a Duffalo bar deadlift deficit with bands. That's hard to say. Let me try that again. A Duffalo bar deficit deadlift with bands. Look cool to me. I thought that was worth filming. I mean, it was creative. I loved it. It looked great. Okay, so that makes the list a creative or a different type of lift that maybe you just want to show people that you're doing. Not saying it, for Ben, it might be a part of your programming now, so you better watch out. But, that's creative, and I can appreciate that. So there's another one. And maybe progression, right? Progression is probably the one that I have used in my recovery or my comebacks, which now there are multiple. As you guys know, I'm on another one that I just want to kind of look back. It's a great place to put it, especially if you're sharing with family and friends, or your guys that you compete with that that might see it and help you make adjustments, that kind of thing. It's a kind of a progression thing. I might film a deadlift this week. I might film it again in 3 weeks. Not every week, not every fifth workout, not every other workout. Just kind of a little bit more of a progression thing. Once a month, once every few weeks. I don't see any problem with that. I don't see any problem with that at all. So those are 7 pretty good reasons, or 6 pretty good reasons that you could take your camera out in the gym and you can get some footage of it, because why not use technology to our betterment of ourselves athletically, or just in lifting in general, learning and knowing how to do something the right way. I have zero problem with that, guys. Zero problem. This is the problem I do have, however. C4 drink. Don't have a problem with the C4 at all. Outside of trying to sleep tonight, that's going to be an issue. Okay, so this is where I have a problem. And there are a few of you out there that are my friends are going to go, fuck you, I just got a better back than you, or I got a better this. If you are not a bodybuilder, Don't take your goddamn shirt off and start lifting weights just to film yourself lifting weights with your shirt off. Listen, nobody wants to see that. There's no girls out there going, oh, fuck, I never saw his back before. Jeez, he looks so hot. I think I'm going to return his DMs now. It doesn't work like that. Stop it. Don't do that anymore. You know who I'm talking about. There's some skinny little friends of mine that love to do that shit. What exactly are you showing off? Don't do that. Now, I have a friend out there who I may have previously mentioned who occasionally lives without a shirt on. He's a big guy. I mean, fuck. Nobody's going to tell this guy no anyhow. Looks like he'd eat your children. Maybe are those looks out there that are okay to do that, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's just a personal peeve of mine. If you're not a big fucking guy, don't take your shirt off. I say bodybuilders, you guys can do that, of course. That's a part of your game. I get it. However, I will say this about bodybuilders. Don't take the camera out and drop your pants down to your ankles in the middle of the fucking gym. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that at all. Again, there's no audience here for that. That's why most gyms have a back room. You want to go pose in it back there, get your picture done back there. Easy enough. So that kind of falls into that category. The other one you might not want to film is every set of your routine. I said it was okay to film your PRs, right? Or those bigger movements. I even gave you some latitude and said self-help. Maybe there's one movement that you want to record, but you don't need to record the set of 25 tricep pushdowns or record the isolated bicep curl set, all 4 sets of 10. Jesus, could you guys stop doing that shit? And then on top of that, posting it on Instagram. And I know I'm not talking about that right now because that's a totally separate thing. But why the fuck? It makes absolutely no sense in the world. Please stop. You don't need to record every set at the gym. And I know why you guys do it. I get it. And we're going to talk about that in a minute too. Nothing works though. This self-absorption shit, this narcissistic sort of, you can call it whatever you want. I know exactly what it is, as do most people out there. That would be another reason not to do or use the camera in the gym. The other reason would be if your coach is requesting footage of you, don't tell us the bullshit that he wants to see your entire workout, because that is bullshit. I know a lot of coaches in every genre of lifting, and not a one of them says, hey, Jimmy, could you send me your entire workout today? None of them have fucking time to watch you work out through your whole workout. They may, however, send that request over for that one particular lift. So yeah, let's just not even pretend that happens. The coaches recording themselves, I would say this to you coaches, because again, many of you are my friends, but a lot of you don't break the rules like this. If you have your own facility, yeah, you can do whatever you want to do. My buddy Duante in his gym, he record whatever he wants. Okay, he owns the damn place. He can do whatever he wants to do. Of course, that's not what he does anyhow. I'm just using him as an example. He does, however, record some of his people that he could send off to his other people, and or he records to actually promote his facility and his programs and what he's doing. That's completely fine. You guys know the business side of that works okay with me. But if you are a coach going into another guy's gym and you're setting out the tripod in the middle of the busiest fucking time of day, and then you're trying to record a workout that you could tell everybody, well, I'm recording this for my clients, I got a better idea. Pick a better fucking time of day. Would you please? Please pick a better time of day. Do it at noon or at 1 when nobody's in the gym, or at 10 o'clock in the morning. But to do it at any time between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. is ridiculous. And nobody wants that because you're in everybody's fucking way. And lastly, don't bring a tripod into the gym. How about that? It would probably cut down on a lot of, this kind of crap we're seeing, right? As far as taking over gym space and that kind of thing. Because if we were really only recording a single lift, a single self-help video, a single moment, a single this or a single that, it's easy to find somebody that says, hey, can you record this set for me real quick? You don't need to bring in your full production and set up a tripod that I got to walk around everywhere you put that damn thing down, especially when you know this is true, guys. If you've been lifting at the same gym forever, you have a certain path you take to get everywhere. And when that tripod's in the way, that just messes up the logistics of everything. Just saying, it does. So that's another thing. And there's one other thing. I wasn't quite sure what list to put it on. And this will kind of segue into the second part of that a little bit. Girls. This is a tough one. This is tough because I appreciate it. I do. Now, I don't appreciate what they say they do it for, because I think it's a big fucking lie. Girls, do you want to take pictures of your ass in the gym? Do you really want to do that all the time? And we know that you're only doing it for one reason. That's to gain attention by guys looking at your ass. Because that is the truth. Let's be clear. Unless you're a competitor and you're putting out a butt pic or a glute pic, ass pic, we'll call it here. No, not politically correct. And you're doing it once a week or once every couple weeks just to do a natural progression kind of thing, how good your butt's looking in this prep or in this training or as you're losing weight. Hey, I'm all for it. And I believe you when you tell me that. But when you take an ass shot every single time you're in the gym and you like to use the excuse or the sort of the lead on that, boy, I'm just loving myself right now. That's really what this is all about, is I'm just really accepting my body for who I am. And I really want to empower other women out there to just love their bodies like you see me loving mine every time I take a picture of my ass in the mirror at the gym. I think it's important to note that I only do that because I just embrace who I am inside. And I've finally gotten to a point where I really, truly just love myself. And I just want to share that with everybody. And that's why I take these pictures of my ass every time I go to the gym. Yeah. Well, we know that's not true. That's all bullshit. You take a picture of your ass every time you go to the gym because you're self-absorbed. Yeah, you are. You're self-absorbed slightly. Nothing wrong with that. I'm slightly self-absorbed myself, but just say it. Say the truth. That's it. I love looking at my ass because I got a great ass, baby. And I want everybody to know I got a great ass. I have no problem with that at all. But one would argue maybe you can just do it in the locker room or at home. And I don't want to see that either. I get it. But you got to remember how this whole conversation started. Chicks in particular, women, sorry, not to belittle or to say something negative or derogatory, are working out in the gym. Like I mentioned before on the last show, guys are staring at them across the way. They're interpreting that. Full circle, trouble starts, blah, blah, blah. That's why we got here, right? That's what I'm talking about. If you guys listen to the last episode. So in a way, I can't champion on women taking ass pics in the middle of the gym or repeatedly filming the leg curl or the stiff-legged deadlift, or we all know the exercises, guys, that we all do, the glute raises and the hamstring curls, standing curls. We get it, ladies, we get it. You got our attention, all right? Every guy in the gym knows what you're doing because you make it completely obvious on your Instagram profiles that you want everybody to see that. I get it. Guys, I may catch hell for saying that. I really don't give a shit because we know it's true. Now, I'm also not justifying any type of erratic behavior, men. I'm not justifying that. I'm not justifying any inappropriate behavior. But ladies, if you think that we're going to believe that shit or anybody else should or does anymore, nobody does. All we have to do is get on your Instagram and stare at the 1,000 ass pics that you have and every other crazy sort of here I am world. It's only because I have this real hard time loving myself bullshit. It is not true. Quit saying that. And then if that's the case, then just just label it the way you need to label it. It's that we're a little self-absorbed. I look hot as fuck and I want everybody to know it. If I can just get more women to say that, oh, boy, hallelujah. I don't know if it'll happen. I don't know how much hell I'm going to catch for that because I think a lot of people know that's the truth. And again, I'm not condoning any type of irreprehensible behavior by any guy if they see that. That's the woman's prerogative. Listen, there's some good-looking guys out there. And listen, if my brain worked in that direction, I could probably argue some guys do the same thing. It doesn't. To me, I look at them and go, oh, Jesus, what's this guy doing? I have no clue. It's like I don't even know what I'm looking at. My brain doesn't register like that. But I will say, I'm sure it works both ways. Matter of fact, I know it does now if I think about it. Perfect example of that is my buddy, right? A guy that I follow all the time. I feel like I know the guys that Goobs _U2. He's always going after these prima donnas in the gym, photoshopping everything that they do online. I love it. It's hilarious. But one can argue, ladies, we know that you girls do a lot of that as well. Do guys really care that much? I don't know. I mean, listen, I don't think there's any reason half you girls do it simply because you look great without editing your pics. And it's not like any other woman on the planet wouldn't appreciate your body, or any man for that matter. So I don't know why you do it. But again, body dysmorphia, I get all that. Guys, especially guys that like to grow muscle, get bigger in the gym like myself, we're all sick in the head when it comes to that. So I'm certainly going to take your side there. But let's not call it this big sort of, this is what I do to sort of just love myself more kind of thing. Oh, we get it. You're loving yourself more. But the real reason you do it is because you want to be noticed. You want people to go, fuck, she's hot. Guess what? You got my attention. There you go. You win. So anyhow, yeah, that may be not the best way to go and approach that topic. But for those of you out there that heard this, just, hey, give it to me any way you want to give it to me. I don't care. I'm just speaking the truth here. And again, I'm not condoning any type of derogatory or inappropriate behavior by any man out there when it comes to seeing these pics, or why are you putting them out there, and what their reaction to them should be. Anything short of just keeping their fucking mouth shut or giving an opinion if they want to, right? Because you're making yourself social about it. You're putting it out there. I think that's another topic for another day. But if you're putting yourself out there to be commented on, then you should be able to take the good with the bad. That goes without saying. But I'm not condoning somebody would ever put somebody down, like outside of the fact maybe I just did. I don't know. Did I put any girl down out there? I don't think I did. I think I just kind of called it the way I see it. And I think a lot of people would agree with me, including those women. Like, oops, do they all know that now? Yeah, we do. We get it. Don't worry. You don't have to. That's the thing. Girls, you don't even have to act like that anymore. We get it. At one point, you probably needed all the help you can get to get out of that pubescent sort of dorky phase that you were in, or those several years you spent a bit overweight and you decided to start working out and have these awesome bodies. Yeah, you got my vote on A for effort, accomplished. You win, well received, all that. But that kind of, wears out after a while. And once you've been there a while and you're looking as good as a lot of us can't, not me, but a lot of people can in the fitness community, that whole sort of self-help thing, anymore. You pretty much know you look pretty damn good, and you want everybody else to know you look pretty damn good too. And it's a little bit more than just self-help. It's more self-absorbed. Let's leave it at that. So anyhow, I digress. God, here I go. I was trying to hold back. So you guys knew in the first part of the show too, I was a bit reserved. Like I was like, man, what's wrong with Joe today? He just seems to be so calculated, like in his monologue. It's like it's just all written down for him. He's reading off a prompter. I know, that's the way I felt. Seriously. I think I felt that way because I knew I was going to talk about that subject. And knowing myself, I knew I was going to go off on some rant like that. And then knowing myself, wondering if it would be received well at all, or if anybody even understood what the fuck I'm trying to say. Because I told you guys before, I got that little guy in the back of my head. He's going, is anybody even paying attention to this? I don't have a clue. I'm in a room by myself talking on a microphone with a video screen and some lights going on right now. I don't have a producer. I need a friend here to produce for me. And you know who you are. Get off your ass. You're not that busy. All right. I got two more things I want to touch on. It might take 15 minutes. And I might actually put both these things on a separate Gym Life clip. As you guys know, I'm trying to divide some things up a little bit, because when a show goes over an hour, I'm not getting all of you to listen to it. So there's not a lot of people listening to this moment, I'm sure. Maybe a couple hundred compared to the many more that start prior. So I'm trying to do what I call gym clips now. And these gym clips will take a subject maybe, or a question, and just allow you to kind of listen to it independently without having to go through the whole show to get there. Yeah, I just think it's a good idea, because I like listening to podcasts like that myself. So I'll start doing the gym clips thing, or Gym Life clips, and that way you can kind of gravitate towards a subject or two if you like to hear about it. Don't, or other, well, it's there for you anyhow, and you don't have to go through an hour and 20 minutes of the show. All right. Cough. Fifth one today. Not a good show for that at all. Okay. So I had two other statements. They weren't even questions, but I don't want to leave them hanging for too long, because I think they're both two things that probably deserve to be mentioned and talked about. And somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it. Might as well be me. The first one is, as you guys know, last week I got a comment that said, I'm 5'7", 280 pounds. I'm paraphrasing. I would love to do strongman, but I just don't think I'm built right for it to compete. And, when I first heard that comment from this guy on my DM, nice dude too. I've interacted with him a couple times. I said, are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Of course, I was a little more delicate than that. I said, listen, I can't even remember what I said, but this is probably what I said. we all think that when we first start in the sport of strongman. I don't think there's a guy out there, if he gave it much thought at all, but if he did, he probably thought, man, I just don't know if I'm big enough and strong enough to do this sport. Now, I would give it to some of you guys 20 years ago. Some of you, very few, but I'd give it to some because it was a different sport back then, even 15 years ago, when there were really only two weight classes. That was 231 pounds and under. We'll talk about men's divisions here, but you could correlate this with women any way you want because it all works. 231 pounds and under for men, 231 pounds and over for men. If you think about the disparity of those two weight classes and all the other weight that surrounds them, there were a lot of guys that were left on the peripheral that, would have a very, very difficult time competing in some of those competitions against some of those guys. And I say some and some because that is true. There's a lot of us, including myself, 5'10". And at that time I got up to about 300 pounds, but I was pushing weight back then because I wanted to get bigger to compete with these bigger guys. You got to remember when I came up, Brian Shaw was in my fucking class. David Ostland. I mean, there were big guys, Van Hatfield, John Anderson. I mean, these guys were giants of men. These just weren't like a little bit bigger like you see in the gym. These guys could swaddle you in your arms like you were a baby. And I was at competitions where these guys were at. And then their predecessors were there. Guys from my I guess I was still their generation, but a new group of athlete coming up that was the Tom McClures of the world. And that's the Derek Poundstones. I mean, this new generation was no smaller than the old generation or the generation that preceded them. So there was not really a good place to be in strongman back then because ultimately you were stuck in no man's land if you weren't 6'3" or 6'2", 300 pounds and above, and or 231, 215 to 230 pounds at 5'10", 5'7", right around there, right? Where a lot of these 105ers are at right now. If you were much lighter than that, below 200 or somewhere between 230 and 265, 280, and sure, you weren't really competing well against anybody. But it took a different kind of guy to compete back then because what you had to realize back then was I'm really only doing this, and it should resonate with everybody out there right now. I do this for myself. Of course, I want to win. Of course, I want to compete at a high level. But it doesn't start there. It starts in just competing. To be a part of this brotherhood and this sisterhood that the strongman community is all about does not require you to be great. It just requires you to put in the effort. And it doesn't matter what size you are to do that. Now, there are a lot of great, I was going to handle this question from a different direction, or this comment. There are a lot of great strong men and strong women out there that defy physiological logic. They're incredibly strong, very competitive, upper level type competitors that perform well consistently. Guy that comes to mind right away, and you guys know what I'm going to say, Tyler Young. Tyler, I don't even know how short you are. 5'6", 5'7", 231 pounds. Last year when I saw you compete at Clash, Tyler puts the fear of God in people when he competes with them because what he brings to the table is something that you don't figure out in the gym and you don't learn how to do it. It's an intangible that's built into your brain. You're a fucking animal. And no matter what you're pitted up against, you're not going to judge yourself against anybody but yourself. And people should fear you because what you're going to bring to the table, they don't understand and they don't know this about you. So it's not all about being the biggest and strongest, but a lot could be said about having the right mindset and knowing that I'm just here to compete against myself and to give this 100% effort and let the chips fall where they may. And then you'll find yourself in a really unique position after you do that a few times, because not only will you be in love with the sport of strongman and in love with the people that participate in the sport, that compete or just are participating in the sport and the fans of this sport, but you're going to find that you're going to now really push the idea that there's a place for you to compete at a high level if you just get the other components of, your strongman life in the right place. And that's learning how to compete, learning how to train strongman, finding out where your strong events are, finding out where the events you need to work on, those type of things, because after a while it's a mathematical equation to become good. You have to start really then sort of concentrating on a lot of the other attributes of strongman besides your weight and besides how tall you are. So that's a whole nother level of learning in this sport that you don't even need to worry about where you're going to be on a competition level until you learn to master all these other intangibles. And that's what makes the sport of strongman so great. So when I see guys and girls that question whether or not they're big enough to compete in strongman, I kind of get a chuckle out of that, because we all feel that way to some degree, no matter how big you are. But ultimately now there's more opportunity for people of all body types and sizes to compete in strongman than there ever has been. Kind of getting back to where I started in this conversation and off on one of my tangents with everything else. Now there's more weight classes. And in all honesty, the guy that sent me the DM about being 5'7", 280 pounds, in all likelihood, brother, you're probably a 231 pounder. Let me be the first to tell you, if you haven't heard this already, you're probably a pretty big, strong, muscular guy. And from what I've seen, you are. But just like me at 5'10", I probably am a 105er. I choose to be where I'm at, so I can't complain. But much like me, you're probably the same. Is your 5'7" frame is probably way more athletic, way more explosive, and certainly capable of the strength that you're producing now at 280 pounds with the right programming and right training at 231 pounds. Or I got news for you, 250 pounds. Because if you learn that cutting game a little bit, like some of these guys have at that high level, you don't have to worry about 231 pounds until 4 or 5 days out from a competition where you water cut, and then you're competing right back at 250 again. So just a reminder to you out there that are short, there's a place for you in strongman, because there are a lot of apparatus that really, really love you, by the way. Deadlifts is one of them. High pulls, I mentioned that a couple weeks ago on the podcast. Pressing, you shouldn't have any issues there no matter what. All's created equal in pressing. Your low center of gravity can get you a lot in a lot of places, as can being taller. It's an advantage one way as much as it's an advantage the other. Ultimately, being taller only means you can put on more weight to compete as an open competitor against some of the giants of the world, because it's very rarely we get to see a guy that's 5'10" or so that competes in the open class on a world level and performs very well. We see it occasionally. It's once in a generation, and it might be Nick Camby, and we all know this. Nick's been pretty quiet lately, but his goal now is to compete in the open class, and if anybody could do it, well, it's Nick Camby. So there you go. There's another example of a guy that's 5'11", I think, that's not going to let size overcome or get between him and the idea of succeeding at the next level. So to just to make a point about that, and I got a lot of comments back from a lot of you guys about that particular comment from last week's show, and you all said the same thing I did, sort of probably articulate yourselves even better, as many of you do, between all my rambling. But you get what I'm trying to say out there, that if you're short and you love this sport, well, the idea of it, don't let that hold you back. You're going to fit in where you're going to fit in, and you're either going to be great at it or you're just going to love fucking doing it. And that's all that matters. And occasionally you're going to find yourself in a competition where it's going to be to your advantage. And there are going to be times you're going to find yourself in competition where maybe it won't be. But in any case, don't let that deter you from competing. And a kind of a little caveat to this story is that he got back with me about 2 or 3 days ago and said, oh, by the way, I found a gym that's got strongman equipment. I was in it. I loved it. I'm going to start throwing stuff around. Guess what, guys? We got a new strongman in our community, because I guarantee it, just like all of us, once you start training with this shit and start talking to other strongman, you're a part of you're not ever leaving the sport. So welcome. And that was a really good comment, though. I appreciated that. There's also another comment that I wanted to talk about real quick. And this wasn't really a comment. It was kind of a question comment, really. And this came from multiple sources. This was really weird. It wasn't just like 1 or 2 people. It was like 3 or 4 people from different, not different sports, even powerlifting, strongman. Anyhow, I'm not going to say bodybuilding at this point, but me, that could probably be true too, because it resonates with all sports. And it was the idea that people keep canceling their entries right before competition. And it's becoming an epidemic, guys. People are canceling their entries right before competition. And I'm going to preach against that right now. And I need this to resonate with everybody out there, because if you come across people that are pulling their entry out of these competitions at the last week or 2 or 3, you need to get on their ass and tell them to quit fucking doing it. That's not what these sports are about. You're not entered in the world's strongest man. And if you were, forbidding some major injury, you're not pulling out of it. You are a local competitor competing on a local level. And that's who we're talking about right now. And you have an opportunity to support your sports community with representing in a contest. And if you're not injured to the point where you're going to exacerbate that injury, make it worse, then you better get your ass to that competition and do what you can do to support it, because there are a lot of people counting on you. That's right. There are people counting on you, not just you. Don't look at this from a selfish perspective. I get a lot of guys out there right now go, well, fuck all that. It's about me. It's about how I feel. That may be true, but if you're a member of this community and you're supporting it, like I think we all do, and I'm not pointing anybody out. I don't even know. Listen, if I knew who you were, I'd be calling you out by name. But if you support this community, whatever that is, your powerlifting community, your bodybuilding community, your strongman community, your Highland Games, whatever it may be, CrossFit, within our lifting community, then you need to follow through with your obligations. One major reason is that promoters rely on you. You're going to have 3 or 4 people drop out of a show that's a small competition. Yeah, I'm talking about War of the North. So you guys know who you are. I don't know. I don't even know your names. All I know is 1 minute there was a problem because we had fewer competitors than we did 2 weeks prior. Excuse me. And all of a sudden, we're running around wondering if we can fill these spots. And I don't say me, I say George, but I'm feeling his pain, right? Because he's got this whole show predicated over the idea that he's going to have this many competitors in this many classes to compete for national representation. See what's involved here? When you have shows that promoters take a real long, hard look at, and they all do, they're not just worried about bodies, guys. They're actually putting together weight classes so these weight classes can have competition in them, which will allow then that competition to take place to see who the best in that grouping is to win an opportunity to go to nationals. Without that, well, it affects it across the board. A, the contest is watered down. It's a little incentive to compete for the other women or men that are there. And then also now you're potentially giving spots to nationals, which we all hate, in both powerlifting and strongman. Well, of course, powerlifting's got it better. I'll explain that in a minute. And strongman in particular, that shouldn't even be there and representing on the national level because they've done nothing and beat no competition to get there. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2, from a promoting aspect, there's an opportunity for these promoters to fill these shows with other people. But if you drop out 2 or 3 weeks before, it's little to no chance that they're going to be able to find somebody to replace you, because not many guys are just going to jump into a competition without having some type of formal training or programming to go with it for at least 6 weeks. I'll give you that. I think a lot of guys in any local show that have been in the sport a while might say, give me 6 weeks. I could pull it together for a local show. But you're 2-3 weeks out, a week out, and all of a sudden you're dropping out and you expect to fill that spot. Yeah, it's a snowball effect from that point. It's not a fun place to be in if you're a promoter. That's why these promoters work so damn hard to get their shows filled up early. And I love the idea of capping shows. A lot of guys hate that idea. I see it a lot in powerlifting. Oh, the show's capped again. There's a reason promoters do that. It's because they do want to generate a waiting list to some degree. But at the same time, they base their entire show logistically with volunteers, with prize packages, with everything they're doing based on the number of competitors they have at the show. Then when people pull out of them, it affects the whole machine. And breakdowns start to take place that shouldn't be taking place. And we need to make sure that we hold up our obligations when we're in these shows to compete. And I'll tell you why it happens. It happens in large part because social media now has put an opportunity, a window, a look into the future, if you will. At least that's what these people are thinking in their heads. They're getting a real good look at their competition and they're stalking the shit out of them. Don't tell me you're not, because you are. We all do it. You don't think I looked up Scott? I knew who Scott Dobbs was. A little shout out to you again, Scott. You don't think I immediately, when I saw Scott Dobbs get into the show, that I wasn't going, okay, fuck, I know how athletic this guy is. How strong is he? And I went and I looked at all the shit. And it was impressive, Scott. You're impressive. You're an impressive Masters competitor. But we all do it. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But if you let that affect you and how you're making a decision whether you're going to compete or not compete in a show, shame on you. Just shame on you for a couple reasons. One, you're really not going to compete in a show because you're worried about who you're going to beat and who you're not going to beat. Then you're in the sport for the wrong reason. Because I'm here to tell you, for most of us in strongman and strongwoman, 80% of the strongman community is better than we are. 50%, 60%, 40%, 20%. There's only a few guys that are at the very top level of the sport. And there's a reason for that, because these women, men and women, are beasts. They're at a point in their athletic and competitive lives, genetically, physically, and other, that they are just head and shoulders above the rest of us. So none of us should be concerned with doing anything but supporting the sport and competing against ourselves is what I'm getting at. Use it as an opportunity to be the best competition that you've ever participated in. Do things the best that you've ever done them. Be concerned about how you're performing and let the chips fall where they may. And you may be surprised. You may be surprised when you finally get to that point of Zen where you're not paying attention to anybody else but what you are doing and your own self. All of a sudden, your name's announced and you're on top of the podium. How did that happen? Well, I can tell you, it happened with a lot of things going on in your training, programming, life, and other. But one big component took place. That was you quit worrying about everybody else, stayed in your own lane, and took care of your own business. That's what we need to do when we compete. And if you're so hung up at looking at other people's social media and making decisions on whether you're going to compete or not compete, the real problem doesn't lie in your ability and your strength ability. The real problem lies in your head. And you better get that fixed first and foremost. Because I'm here to tell you, if you look at a competitor's list from any show that you ever participate in, you're going to be freaked out by everybody's numbers, because this sport comes with a lot of badass individuals who compete in it. And these are people that on any given Saturday can have one hell of a performance, and you may not even sniff the podium. But if you just pay attention to yourself and what you're doing, rely on what you know and what you know how to do, then you're going to just let chips fall where they may. And you may find yourself there someday, because this sport's about progression like any other sport. And the only way that you can get better is to compete. You have to compete. The best will tell you that. The CJ Pierces of the world will tell you that. The Tyler Youngs of the world will tell you that. You have to compete to get better at this sport. And you're going to take your lumps. I get it. There's some guys that don't ever take their lumps. But the majority of people out there are going to take their lumps in all these sports we're talking about, because you have to understand what it means to compete. It's another component and another facet of actually being a good competitor, is knowing how to compete. So I know that's probably the biggest component of why people are dropping out of these shows, is because they're looking at other people and they're looking at these gym lifts or these training lifts. And I'm here to tell you, don't get too hung up on those gym lifts and training lifts. I compete 10% better in training or in competition than I do in the gym. I'm that guy. I don't know why. I can pull 10% more in competition. I can press 10% more in competition. I don't know if I'm any faster in competition. Fuck, I'm slow as hell, but I'm going to get faster. But my point is, and some people, of course, are 10% less or 15% less. You don't know. You just don't know. And if you're going to go by somebody's PR to determine whether or not they're going to have a good deadlift for rep session or a max axle compared to a deadlift bar PR in the gym, well, shit. I mean, what are we comparing here? Not apples to apples. So my point is, don't get too influenced by what you're seeing on social media when it comes to these guys and gals getting ready for competition, and especially bodybuilding too, right? Lights make a big difference. Pump makes a big difference. Where you're at in your prep makes a big difference. You still have to get on stage in peak condition and peak point of prep, right? We all know this. Peak. We've heard it. Powerlifting, everybody knows that in powerlifting as well. You're hitting that perfect program. You're peaking at the perfect time. And just because you're watching a guy do something 2 meets ago doesn't mean that he's going to do it at the next meet, because it comes down to perfect prep. And same thing with strongman. Probably less about perfect peak or perfect prep in strongman, because we tend to beat our bodies up a little bit differently than the other two. And oftentimes we're working around injury or different types of apparatus that are a bit unknown or maybe not so familiar with, or haven't had an opportunity to use them in a while. So there's a little bit of that unknown as well. But there still is all those other intangibles. Those components are involved in how you're going to produce at that day, at that show. I saw some of the best competitors I've ever seen in my life compete, and going to shows against them, thinking to myself, in my generation, guys, thinking I stand no chance, but I just go in there compete because that's the guy I am. And I find myself looking at the totals at the end of the show going, holy fuck. I was 3 points away from my pro card here. I was an event away, a rep away, a second away, an inch away from moving up one more place in the standings, almost to the podium in some cases. That's my point. If I would have talked myself out of many of the shows that I participated in, because I should have, for fuck's sake, right? With the logic that is being thrown at us by a lot of people out there that aren't going into these shows, then holy fuck, how would I have ever realized anything about myself and my ability to compete against bigger odds or adversity? If you don't challenge yourself in competition, you will never get better. And I think that's a great comment that I got. And again, it came from like 3 or 4 different sources from around different parts. It wasn't just about War of the North. It was about other shows as well. I think this is starting to resonate big in our community because people are dropping out. Some people use injury for dropping out. Nobody's going to knock that. If you're injured, you're injured. I will say, however, don't fall into that sort of what is that? Don't fall into the idea that that's going to resonate with everybody all the time. You know, the boy that cried wolf. Sorry, guys. I'm going to try to find my analogies. I fall short sometimes. Don't be the boy that cried wolf or the girl that cried wolf. Meaning, I don't know if that's a good enough analogy, but every time you get a little ache or pain, you're going, I think I'm going to drop out of this competition. I've tweaked my quad or something, or my wrist is hurting a little bit, my tricep. Listen, that's if you're getting certainly in strongman. If you're getting into the strongman realm and you don't have an ache or pain coming into most of these shows, you're not doing something right. I'm here to tell you. So unless it's detrimental to maybe furthering the injury, something that's going to cause something that you have to get worse, then, maybe if that's the case, if it's going to get worse, then certainly you don't want to be there. But if your bicep or if your tricep is tweaked a little tight or something, or, you have another issue that doesn't make a lot of difference in how you're going to deadlift or what the events are in that particular show, then there's no reason you shouldn't be there. And if there's one particular event you may have to be a little bit cautious in, it doesn't give, still, you have no reason not to be there. Because we can all, at any time, every single one of us, look at a contest and go, boy, those are 5, 6 good events. Oh, I might have a tough time with this one because I'm a little sore on my shoulder. Well, fuck, nobody would join a show. Nobody would enter a competition. You just have to sometimes let chips fall where they may, go into that competition and learn how to compete. Because I guarantee you, if you ever did make it to a higher level in any of these sports, there's going to come a time that you're going to find an opportunity is going to present itself if you're good enough to get there, and you're going to have no choice but to compete. Because when your opportunity comes a knocking and the Rogue Invitational calls you or Giants Live calls you up and they say, listen, we need you here. We got a spot for you. Here's your time to shine. You're fucking right you're going. And if you're a little bit tweaked, you'll figure it out because you may not win that show. But, man, if you get that crowd behind you on a great deadlift event or a great pressing event, and you get a guy like Colin Bryce behind you or any one of these promoters that promote these bigger events because they saw what kind of effort you put in at that show and you kicked fucking ass, maybe not at the whole show, but at that particular event or 2 or 3, you'll be back. And now your story's being written because it comes down to being able to compete sometimes when there's adversity against you. So make it happen. Quit dropping out of these fucking shows. Stop doing it. Woo! Ric Flair moment, Luke. Got a Ric Flair moment there. So anyhow, yeah, that'll be a clip for you guys. But that was a fun show. Listen, a little bit again. I always feel like I'm a little all over the place with this stuff. But you guys are been very kind to me and keeping me on task sometimes and let me know that you're enjoying the program, and I appreciate that because I kind of do things a little bit differently here with my personality, and talk about what I want to talk about. And I get off some weird tangents and say things maybe that make sense for 30 seconds. And you go back and scratch it. I go, what the fuck was he saying? I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. But you guys know how much I love this community, every bit of it, this fitness community, this gym lifer community, this lifting community that we're all part of. I support every motherfucker out there and every guy and gal out there when it comes to just getting better and using this world we live in our bubble, that is, in this gym lifer bubble, just to be better in life, better at feeling better, looking better, competing better. It don't matter. But don't be the one thing that stands in your own way. That's all I'm going to tell you guys out there. As you guys know, tricep tendon surgery, March 10th. But I'll be back. Oh, you're fucking right. I'll be back. All right. Everybody out there, stay tuned. Stay strong. Appreciate your support.